morning, everybody. I toast to you. I hope you're having a fantastic day and all you do. All right. So, in keeping with the whole, you got to go out and experience things. So we talked about candle magic. Oh wait, what did we talk? No, yeah, we talked about casting and calling and a little bit of candle magic. And sorry, I was trying to think of what else that oh yeah, okay. So let's talk more just about practicing and other ways to practice, aside from meditation and candle magic. I think a super important, okay, so you see all of these titles that are like hedge witch or garden witch or kitchen witch or blah 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 or whatever different titles, and really these are just things that you're super interested in. So as a gardener, and I do a lot of gardening, so you'll see garden witch or whatever. Some of my videos are on gardening, that kind of thing, because that's what I do. And that's part of my practice. I grow herbs that are magical. When I'm picking out herbs at the store, it's funny because I'll have to look up their magical meanings and be like, okay, no, I don't need this one. Do I need this one? No, I don't need this one. And that's almost to me more important than like growing conditions. I'm willing to like bring plants inside or do what I have to do to keep them alive through the winter, but it's just a part of my practice. So then you'll also see people who are like cave witch or ocean witch, sky witch. There's lots of different titles out there. They're all, again, what you're interested in. So that's not just like I'm going to read more books about plants because I'm a hedge witch. I'm going to actually go out and spend time in my hedge, like picking and pruning and doing those kind of things. So whatever it is that you're interested in, go out and do that. So let's go over some examples of just different ways that you can facilitate this. You can hear Diamond, the neighbor dog. It's a poor puppy. Anyways, so obviously hedge witch, go out and be in your plants. You plant a garden, and you spend time in it. You go out into the forest and you spend time with the trees, the bushes, larger plants, okay? That one I feel like is kind of self-explanatory, and if you like being in the forest and being around trees and stuff like that, that's pretty much right up your alley. So then, a garden witch, plant something. And if you don't, say that you really like a certain herb, okay? I would say sage, but people don't, not all witches actually like sage. We found a really fun herb for my son. It's called curry, and it smells like curry. It doesn't taste like curry, unfortunately, because that would be amazing. Just one herb in the pot. Curry! But it smells like curry. So it's just been a fun plant for him to hang out with and spend time with and be around. He also has a cactus, because he's like, I hate cacti. So my husband brought him home a wild cacti. I was like, here, son, bond with this cacti. You don't have to hate them. He ran into one while we were in New Mexico. It's like devastating. They got a lot of cacti down there. Anyways, so now he has his own little cacti and he just kind of hangs out with it. And not in the there's not much you can do with it. You just have it and it's there and you look at it and you whatever. So same with the curry plant. It's not one that we're going to eat or burn or, whatever, but it's just a plant to spend time with. So that can be what you do. I think some great plants to start with, if you don't feel like you have a green thumb, are going to be like your pothos. And you'll see those everywhere. They have the heart-shaped leaves, and they're really hard. In order to kill one that I had in my office before I had kids, I had them all over. And then with children, it's too hard to remember to water and take care of house plants. They were all babies. Anyways, so this pothos that I had, it took almost a whole year for it to actually completely die, and I barely watered it maybe twice. And it just kept living. It's really hard to kill. A creeping Jew plant is really hard to kill, and they're pretty amazing. They're beautiful. They have like purple leaves with like green and iridescent stripes on the other side. They are really pretty. And when they break, you just stick it in a glass of water. It makes new roots, and you can start over. Like, I just remember having one, and whenever they would get really long and break off, I would just put it in water and then re-add it to the pot once it had roots, and so it just would like replenish itself, which is really nice. Spider plants are also kind of like that, and once it gets a little droop, you put the droop in a glass of water, it'll root, you put it back in the pot, and then it's more plant. And so those kind of plants are super easy to grow. They don't take a lot of focus, and they're just fun to have in your house and to like spend time and see, do I like being around plants? Now that's not always as rewarding as some others because there's not a lot of, I'm sure there are magical uses for pothos, but it's not really like, woohoo, I'm gonna do magic with this. Some great herbs that are super easy to grow inside on your countertop are basil. Basil grows really, really easy. It's one of the reasons that it has the magical attributes of prosperity is because it's a very prosperous growing plant. And it will reseed itself if you let it go to flower. If you're eating it, you want to pinch the flowers off. Like as soon as you see it start to grow a flower, pinch it off because then it'll keep that sweet basil's taste and it won't get a peppery, bittery taste because that's what happens. Magically, if it gets flowers, it's great. Prosperity all around. The seeds are great for fertility magic. And it grows really easy on your countertop. Marjoram, however you say it, marjoram. I love using it in cooking. Also grows phenomenal on your countertop. I keep it outside, and I brought it inside because it snowed, and it was like, I really like being inside. Now it's kind of mad because I put it back outside, but they're tough plants. Just kidding. An aloe vera plant in your windowsill grows really nicely. They're super easy. You don't have to water them a bunch, and they're there, and it's something that you can use for lots of things. It's the other easy to grow herb. Most herbs are super easy to grow. Some herbs that are hard to grow, don't get me wrong, not all of them are as easy as that. So some herbs that are hard to grow are like lavender. I've been gardening for a long time, and in every garden I've ever planted, since the first garden I planted in like 2006 was lavender. And this lavender plant I planted last spring is the first lavender I have ever had come back. I bought a big lavender from a fancy place. I paid $30 for it. I was like, I'm buying a well-established, happy, well-taken care of lavender plant that I'm going to bring home, and I'm going to put the same dirt that I bought a bag of their dirt, and I'm planted it in there. This is happening. And now it's alive. It did have a lot of die-off, and it was really sad, but now it's actually starting to perk back up and be really happy, and I'm like, yay! But that's been a really hard plant to grow, so don't be like, I'm going to go buy lavender, and that's what I'm going to start with, because it might be frustrating. Sage doesn't like being grown inside. It wants to be outside in bad soil and be ignored. Not gonna lie, like most sages, that's what they want. As long as you're in the right zone and climate-wise, then that's what they want. And so those are hard to grow inside, but easy to grow outside. You just gotta find one that's right for your climate zone. So, find something that kind of works. Try some different seeds. I started with one of those little countertop hydro garden things, and it was great. And just kind of go from there. Have pots in the window, whatever you need. You can start there. So that's like if you're into plants, go that direction. Plant some plants, grow some seeds, do that thing. For me, I just kind of went into that, I liked plants. My dad had a lot of plants, and then at one point I moved in with him, and then he moved out and left all of his stuff, and so I got all of his plants, and it kind of grew from there. But I was more into rocks was like a kid, like rocks and sticks. Lots of rocks. I have jars and jars and buckets and cups and containers and trays full of rocks that I have. Oh, this is a cool rock. Like random rocks that I pick up off the street. I just like rocks. And it's some rocks I'll identify. Some rocks I just know I can identify. Rose quartz is all over the Rocky Mountains, so it's crazy. I'm like rose quartz, woohoo! But working with stones is fun because one, you don't have to keep them alive. They stay alive all by themselves. And two, it's more about having a conversation with the energy and feeling the energy. So I have a stone that I found one day walking down the street in Capitol Hill. It's a really unique white stone. It's like perfectly rectangle. It's flat on one side. It's just like a weird stone. I've never been able to actually identify it. I've never really tried. But when I picked it up, it was like this overwhelming sense of truth and honesty and like no bias. And so after meditating with it and spending some time with it, I was like, this needs to go with my cards, my fairy cards, and this helps me not be biased. So that's one of the challenges when you're doing readings, especially for yourself or people that you know and love and are around a lot, is there's a lot of bias, and you're thinking it and the cards are feeling that, and so they'll pull that out. And sometimes your bias is so strong you will draw a card that you think you're going to draw because you thought it so hard that's what the deck gave you. I work a lot with the fairies, so it's not so much. And on all honesty, this rock also helps the fairies not be so biased so that we can have a nice, happy, healthy, honest conversation. Maybe not bias is the right word. I think snarky. Sometimes the fairies are like, neener, 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 this is what I'm telling you. And like, okay. But anyways, so, and this is just a stone I picked up walking down the street. And holding it and feeling that energy. And so I think that working with stones and crystals is a great way to begin to pick up on different frequencies of the earth's energy, because each stone is going to have a different frequency that it's going to vibrate with. And this is something that can be scientifically proven, which I love. And this is about the density, the molecular structure of the stone, and how it was formed. Is it whatever, was it formed under lava, was it formed under pressure, high heat, both, whatever, that changes the frequency at which the stone or crystal will vibrate and resonate, and the energy that it'll give off, like, oh, okay. And if you really want to like science up your magic, this is great. This is one of the reasons that I love it so much. Is because of that principle. And you can study the molecular structure of a stone, and it will teach you about the magical principles of it. Stones that were formed under high pressure give strength. Stones that were formed under high heat give energy. It's just kind of a thing. And I also love when like ancient magic is proven by modern technology, and it's like, okay. So, and then you learn the difference between a diamond and graphite and carbon. Oh, lead is okay. Anyways, so, and why they want to change lead into gold and diamond and all of these other things, because the early alchemists saw this and felt this and worked with this and really, really were like, we're going to do this. And you can't change the molecular properties, and I think that's something that we have to kind of learn to deal with, and that's in part what you're learning when you're working with these stones. There are just some energies that you cannot transform. Plants, we grow it, we have a seed, we grow it, we nurture it, we put water on it, we do all of these things, it grows, and then we can use that, we can transform that energy into a tincture or an oil or an incense or food or whatever it may be, and it just keeps getting transformed and transformed. When you're working with a stone, this is something that was transformed by ancient cosmic energies that are far great, like, and I think as close as we can get to this is when we start to do things like changing sand into glass, or, melting. We can make diamonds. We can make things under pressure and do that kind of thing with our cubic zirconium or whatever. And we can recreate, but they don't have exactly the same energies, but close. You know, you can feel the difference, but they're similar. But anyways, so working with that energy is just a really good way to learn to begin to identify different energies that come from the earth. So each stone is going to resonate with a different energy, and they're going to feel that. So, you know, ground, calm, cleanse your energy, and then hold that stone and see what it's saying to you. Maybe let it whisper to you. However you feel, you're going to get that energy. Luckily, when you're in an occult store, they don't give you a funny look when you pick up a rock and you're like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. Okay, for me, I'll pick up a rock, and if it's meant to go home with me, it'll literally jump out of my hands. It'll get so excited, it'll just fall on the floor, and I'm like, that's the one I gotta buy. It's just always been that way with me. Things that are mine, I typically drop. My husband says I've dropped all the kids. I didn't drop all of them. Not on purpose, at least. Anyways, okay, so stones are a really great way to learn to work with that energy that you can't manipulate, but you can work with. You can use it to your benefit. You can add that energy to your work. You can call on that energy for strength, that kind of thing. An elemental witch. This is a title that I took on very early. For me, bonding with the elements was super important and a big part of my practice. And so I'm still, it's not a journey that's done. I've worked with earth. We're very tight. Like, we're pals. And I've worked a lot with air. And also very like I can communicate with air. We have a great fluid, which is funny because it's air, but anyways, we do have this great fluid relationship. It helps me connect with like my spirit guides and stuff like that, and the elements and all these different things. But it took working with that energy. I've worked a lot with water. I think more recently, which is kind of ironic because I'm a Scorpio, so water should have been the first, like, oh yeah, duh. But it wasn't. You know, I come from a world of big kids don't cry and you shouldn't have feelings and there's a lot of whatever, but that's okay. We learn. We live, we learn, we deal, we cope, whatever. So working with water and my emotions was a lot more challenging than working with earth and that foundational, solid, this is real kind of energy. Fire was challenging to work with because I was consumed with the notion, hello air, I was consumed with the notion that fire is that flame, the torch, the whatever, in this controlled sense. And that never really jived with me. I never felt called to it. I was never like, oh, fire. And then about 12 years ago, something like that, I moved out to rural Weld County where fire is used in a tool in a much different way. You know, they burn the fields in the springtime and in the fall, and it's part of the cycle, and then the forest fires, and this kind of fire. And I realized that for me, and the aspects of fire that I bonded with are not the fire that you hold in your torch, but for me, fire is the all-consuming, changing, and that is very, very much like I felt that energy when I watched them burn a field that was right next to my house, and a controlled burn. Totally, this is what they do. They control burned the whole thing in like 15 minutes. Came through, whole field, flames. Like, oh my god, smoke, flames. Like, I came outside, I didn't understand. My husband, who is not my husband at the time, but he came out and he told me, he's like, no, it's normal, it's okay. I'm like, should we call the fire department? Oh my god. And watching this and being a part of that, and then, you know, we've had a bunch of forest fires, and at that time we also had, and going out into a recently burned area and feeling that energy and being present with that energy and in that place was transforming for my connection with fire. And I realized that for me, fire is that flash, flare, burn everything, jump off the side of the cliff kind of fire, that transforms everything, and then you are reborn new. And it was funny because as a child, when I picked my first magical name, it was Phoenix Rain. And because in the rain, I dedicated myself to the gods in a very dark moment. As a child, I was 11 years old, and I needed that spiritual influence, and it was raining, and I felt that fire from within, like, whew, and this whole, like, sense of relief came to me, and it was a very magical moment. And so in that, I took on the title Phoenix Rain, and then, I went through my practice, and we joined a coven, and we took on other names for the coven. I'm not even going to lie, I can't even remember the nymph that I picked. It was like a dawn nymph. And then now, as I came back around, I was like, I need a new name. And the only thing, I was like, Rising Phoenix. Like, that's just it. This is me rising out of the ashes from all of this to transform yet again 22 years later. It was a little more than that. But anyways, it was just like a weird full circle kind of thing. But in that bonding with the fire, it is that flash flare rising up from the ashes kind of fire. And same with water. Water for me is like a immersive fluid, whatever. But anyway, so that's how I bonded with each of the elements, and brought that into my practice and really practiced with them. Sitting outside in the wind, watching that fire, being somewhere where there had been a forest fire, having my hands in the earth is a big part of me every spring. To get out, put my hands in the earth, and bang on the ground and wake up Mother Earth. I have the kids come out and help me, and we pat the earth, and we love the earth, and it's like a thing. A little chant, like wake up Mother Earth kind of thing. It's beautiful, it's fun. But it's immersing yourself with those energies and letting them communicate with you and be with you in that energy. And so the elements are a great way to an elemental witch, and that's kind of how you just start bonding with them and working with them and looking at their energies in different ways. Okay, I feel this video is getting really long. Okay, should we do another one? What would be another one? We had elemental, we've had I think herbs and elements and the stones, those are 3 great places to start. And so I challenge you to pick one of those things and to focus on that. You see my dog harassing the neighbor dog? He's not barking at her. He just goes and stands there and looks until she barks. It's so annoying. Anyways, just that old man. So I challenge you, if you haven't already, to pick one of those things and to begin focusing on it. Either plant something or go out and find some rocks to feel, even if they're rocks that you have in your house. Don't look at what the book says. Hold the rock and listen to the rock and be with the rock. Or be with the elements. Pick an element, spend time with that element, and be with that element. Practice with that element. Light the candle, plant the plant. And it doesn't have to be in a bubble, like in a vacuum. You only do one. If you're going to plant a plant, earth is a great element to work with simultaneously. And you build that relationship together. Because nothing is in a vacuum. Nothing is one without the other. They all kind of come together. So, without any other thing, don't forget to like and subscribe. Come back for more. We're going to try to do more of these action things so that I can help you create your practice. And you're not just reading. Okay? So, many cheers to you. Ooh, wind came in. It's telling me it's time to go inside. The children are being naughty. So, toast to you and all you do. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Come back for more, and I hope you have a great day.